All right, so here's the deal. Peter spoke highly of Paul, and he actually says some of what Paul is teaching is difficult to understand, which makes me almost think if Peter didn't totally understand everything that Paul was preaching, their messages must have been different. If their messages were exactly the same, then Peter would never have actually had a difficult time with Paul's stuff. Take a look at Acts chapter 2, verse 36. This is the original 12 are preaching. The context, Acts chapter 2, is after Pentecost, and it includes baptism and his accusations against Jews for killing their Messiah. Acts chapter 5, 28, same thing. Accusation of being guilty murderers. Acts chapter 7, about Stephen, verse 52, accuses the rulers directly of the betrayal and the murder of Jesus. It seems as though that the early church, the 12, a lot of what they were preaching did not evolve into what Paul taught immediately. Meaning, they were still preaching water baptism. Hello? They were still, and a part of their gospel message actually included calling out the Jewish leadership for murdering the Messiah. Paul doesn't preach like that. He didn't preach water baptism. He actually said in 1 Corinthians, he goes, I didn't come to baptize. It seems as though their messages were very similar in the sense of that they're both saved. But the 12 or the early church before Paul seemed to be a little ignorant of what Paul was teaching later on. So I believe that God sent the Apostle Paul not to enhance the message, but to evolve the message. What God told the Apostle Paul is the most complete gospel. What you find before is what the disciples were preaching, and it seems to be different. Acts chapter 10, verse 39. It states that according to Peter, Christ died because he was slain by certain Jews. Paul doesn't preach like this. So, there was an emphasis on baptism. There was emphasis on the coming kingdom. There was an emphasis on calling out those that killed their Messiah. Peter and the disciples focused on the person of Jesus. Paul seems to focus on the works of Jesus. Paul's gospel was about this. Christ died willingly in the place of sinners. Sounds completely different. Paul's preaching that Christ died willingly. Compare that to what Peter and Stephen are preaching, calling people out for killing him. I don't believe they actually totally understood the meaning of the cross. They didn't understand really what happened. It wasn't until Paul, Mark Hinkin said it like this in one of his messages I like. He said that the epistles, Paul's epistles, bring us the x-ray to the Gospels. So the Gospels being a narrative, even Acts being a narrative of what happened, but to understand truly what happened behind the scenes, what it really meant, you have to go to the book of Acts. I'm sorry, the book of Paul's letters. Paul understood the x-ray. God let him see into those narratives to see really what was happening. So my point is, be very, very careful in following Peter. Don't follow Peter. Don't follow Stephen. The gospel message seems to be different who you're listening to. Paul the Apostle is our apostle. He said, follow me as I follow Christ. We are in the dispensation of grace, not law. We are in the dispensation of God's love, the mystery of Christ, and that's what we follow today. So be very careful trying to combine the message. I mean, even the Great Commission. I'm even questioning if the Great Commission is actually for you and I. I think the Great Commission, it was for the Jews. It was for the 12. And it was very, very clear. It was very clear that he said, go and baptize. Teaching them everything that I have taught you. What did Jesus teach? He taught the law. He taught the Jews about the law. Are we supposed to be doing that? No. He taught the coming kingdom. This is the millennial reign. Are we supposed to be doing that? According to Paul? No. So that being said, all I'm saying is understand hermeneutics, understand how you're reading Scripture. I know it's very, very difficult to get outside of our echo chambers, to get outside of our, take off the glasses that you originally had. I know it's hard. You Word of Faithers out there, Pentecostals, Charismatics, don't be afraid of a Baptist person. They're good people. You might learn something from them. Baptist folk. Yeah, some of the Pentecostals, Word of Faith, prophetic people might be a little weird. They might be a little strange. But you can learn something from them too. That you can experience God. You know. And my point is, I believe that God has raised up different denominations, different people to bring a word in due season. God could be raising up a Presbyterian, could be raising up a Methodist, could be raising up all different folks. So listen to him. Learn, grow. Take off the glasses. Take off those glasses that you've been carrying on for so long, the ones that were given to you the first day you went to church and you never left that church. The glasses that were given to you when you were born again in Assemblies of God Church. You went to Bible school in Assemblies of God Church. You got your master's in Assemblies of God Church. You got your PhD in Assemblies of God School, University. Now you're in Assemblies of God. You know nothing else but AG teaching. There's different glasses you can put on and see things in a different way. Don't be afraid of them. Don't recommend it for a young Christian. Stay with where God puts you until He leads you into something else. It's a journey, ladies and gentlemen. It's a journey. God speaks to us progressively, just like He spoke through the Scriptures progressively. And what I mean by that is follow Paul. Follow the Apostle Paul. Paul the Apostle he saw Jesus. He saw King Jesus. He saw Jesus after the resurrection in His glorified state. The 12 saw Jesus after the resurrection in His physical state. Well, on earth. Let me say it like that. He saw Him on earth. Things were expressed and taught to the Apostle Paul that were not ever given to Peter, James, and John.